Doing another episode of the Flip Talk podcast here today. And I just want to thank you all for listening. If you are listening on iTunes or any other platform you listen to, we are doing these live now on Facebook, usually about a couple weeks before they release. So if you're interested in seeing more of the content before anybody else gets to it, make sure you are going to Flip Talk Podcast with Don Costa, the page, and liking that page so you get notified when we go live. I am still live streaming this on the Flip Talk group as well, but eventually it'll all be on the page. So make sure you are liking that page and following that page so you can be part of it. We are going to be doing a lot of really cool things here in the near future with content. And I have the gentleman here with me today that has been kind of helping me get some of that up and going and going to be doing a lot more with me. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
Dude, I am good. Thanks for having me on, man. Some absolute rock stars and legends that have been on this show. So been following you, Don, for a while, and I was just like completely flattered when you reached out to me a few months back to get me to come do some of your content stuff. So appreciate you having me on. I look forward to having a good conversation.
Well, definitely. I appreciate you being here. So we're going to jump into kind of what you do now, but let's get into real estate and why you are in real estate and I guess like how you got started, what drew you to it, and why you're staying in the niche.
Yeah. So a little bit of kind of like formatting what I do right now is I simply very put is I do content production for people in the real estate investing industry, whether they're an influencer like Don or active investor. I was just with a team down in St. Louis and then over in Dayton, Ohio, filming some video for their acquisitions marketing. But content production is the only thing that I do. Don't do web development, funnel building, ad campaigns, nothing like that. Because I strongly believe that content feeds everything in your marketing. And
Right.
I don't strongly believe it. I know that's what it is. And so it's extremely important to nail down your content marketing. So that's what I practice. That's what I preach and offer and provide. So a little bit about why I even niched into just this, because I don't, I get realtors that ask me to do content for them and I say no. I get, I've had a cake shop that's down the street ask me to do some video for them and I say no. And the reason why is because I've been in this industry for about 7 years now. So I'm 26 years old, got started when I was 19. No clue what was going on. Long story short, I had a rough breakup with a girlfriend. I wanted to go take a vacation. I was working in a forklift warehouse and the boss would not give me the week off. And even though I never asked off. And so I said, good riddance. I quit and called up my buddy who I played basketball with in high school. And I knew that his dad was doing real estate investing in the area. And I just reached out to him and said, hey, do you need somebody to do like odds and ends type stuff? I don't really have much experience. And I've always been in the creative space. So I've done, graphic design and video work pretty often. Even in my younger years, I got started when I was in middle school pretty much. And then I used the first Photoshop when I was in high school and whatnot. So I always had that background, but I told him, those are the only skills I really have. And then he brought me on and we ended up, I ended up getting trained basically on everything real estate. So I was doing acquisitions, cold calling, sales, closings, putting out bandit signs, doing pre-looks on houses, marketing. I mean, you name it, I was doing everything. And it really gave me a core foundation of real estate. I had to analyze deals, find ARBs, and learn all those different LTVs and all those different acronyms that real estate investors need to learn. And that's how I got involved into it. And then parted ways with them. And then I went to join up with my buddy Gary Harper, who many of you probably know. He does business systems and processes implementation for real estate investors specifically. At that point, he was actually partners with a couple of other guys. We were buying and selling in 5 states in the Midwest. I gave him a call and I said, and at this point, I had just turned 21 years old. And I gave him a call and said, hey man, I've got about, a few months of experience in this real estate thing. I know you're in it. Could you use anything for me? He said, yeah, absolutely. I'm buying and selling virtually in Michigan and come on board with me and we'll do that together. And so I joined up with him and the first year, I believe I was with him, we did about 80 wholesale deals virtually, 100% virtually. We had one guy boots on the ground in the entire state of Michigan. And that gave me a really good leg up in understanding virtual wholesaling and being efficient when it comes down to doing deals, which Don, that's nothing new to you.
Right.
And so then at that point, when we started doing that, I kind of grasped this thing of what real estate actually means. And I realized that I don't like it. I hate real estate. So in between kind of that time frame too, there's about a 5-month time frame when I left that first company to go join Gary. I wholesaled a couple deals on my own by myself from the knowledge that I had and made some decent money. I tried to do one fix and flip, and I will never, ever do that again. Thank God I actually broke even on it. Pretty much. I made about $500 on the flip and, yeah, never doing that again. And through that time period, I just realized like, I hate real estate. I just don't like it, but I love the industry. I love what it can provide to people. And I love the people in this industry. I've met very few people that I strongly believe, like, I don't want to be friends with those people. I mean, almost everybody I meet in this industry are just down to earth, awesome people. And so then I kind of, after doing some of that with Gary, the virtual wholesaling in Michigan, I kind of elevated into the marketing director role for the entire company, buying and selling in 5 different states. And just ran that marketing side for a while. You know, HUD was really hot, so I can't credit all the deals that we did to the marketing that I was doing. HUD was extremely hot. We were getting a lot of deals from there, but a good amount of them were coming from what we were doing in the marketing department along with Gary. So then at that point, they all decided to part ways in about 2017, late 2017. I went with a guy named Tom Olson, and we were running a mastermind, and all 3 of us had started, or all 4 of us had started a mastermind called Good Success. And Tom bought Good Success. I went with him and ran the operations for that for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And then last year, March of 2019, I went full-time into my media business. Just had some incredible opportunities that were opening up. That's a whole nother crazy story as well. And it just kind of took off from there. I've felt the, entrepreneurship a couple of times, but it's been absolutely incredible. And I love the people I get to service and work with. So that's a summary.
Very cool. Yeah. So kind of full circle, but the key is you understand the business, you understand why marketing is important in the business. And, and so your specialty at this point in time is helping real estate investors obviously create content to promote their business or train their teams, I'm assuming. There's probably a gamut of things. What are some of the things that people utilize you for? Because really getting your name out there in your community is very important these days, now that technology and Facebook and Instagram has taken over as much as it has, and that kind of thing. So what are some of the things that people utilize you for?
Yeah, so I'm going to specifically direct that to the active investor, because I assume that's probably the primary audience that you have listening right now. Because like I said, I service influencers too, that, people like yourself. I got, Mike Hambright, John Martinez, and a bunch of other people that I work with in the space that are in that influencer stage of their business, right? Still being practitioners in the business, but they've really elevated to that influencer stage because they have the opportunity to do that. But because probably the primary audience that we're listening to the show right now are active investors, the number one thing that I do is I'll do on-site video shoots with the clients. So if you're an active investor, let's say you're a wholesaler or you're a flipper or whatever, more times than not, the marketing is directly related to acquisitions, like 100%, because that's like what's needed the most. If you don't have deals, then you don't have a business, period. And so, and we all know the market's tightening up a little bit no matter where you're at, and deals are becoming a little bit harder to come by. And so loading up the content marketing for acquisitions, whether that's, about us video or specifically a video that's directed towards, probates or tired landlords or whatever. And I help strategize creating those topics. And then I'll come on site with the investor, shoot videos for them. Normally we can load up about 20 to 30 videos to front load their acquisitions marketing. And what they use that for is your obvious answers. They'll throw that in the websites. Google My Business. If you're not utilizing Google My Business, you're missing out big time. It is an extremely underrated platform. Make sure that you're using it. Obviously, Facebook page, and then they can also use those for email campaigns if they got a list of motivated sellers that they have in their campaigns. But so that's primarily what you would think about when you're thinking about content marketing. Is that specifically. And kind of to bring this full circle and wrap this answer up is, content marketing, all it really is, especially for an active business that's, let's leave influencer out of the picture right now. If you have a active service or a product, content marketing, all it is answering people's questions, period. There's no other definition for it. People have questions, you're answering those questions for them. So take, for instance, an active investor for filming a video for a tired landlord, directly going after a tired landlord and saying, hey, we'll buy your property from you. Your video might say something in effect of, are you a tired landlord? Are you tired of dealing with tenants and toilets? Do you live out of state? Are you in your upper years and wanting to get rid of this property because it's too much of a hassle or stress? Here's some options that you can work with, not saying I will buy your house. That's for the end. So first you're identifying the person, then you're giving a solution to their problem, which may include you, but you're giving them other outside options to bring value to them. And then at the end, you're giving the call to action. And that's simply what content marketing is you're identifying that person in that content, providing value to them, whether that's a solution or whatever, or a resource, and then giving that call to action at the end. So bringing that full circle.
Right. Very cool. And again, you can distribute it out there just about any platform that you
Absolutely.
want. What are some of the best practices if somebody wants to start doing some things on their own? Like, what have you seen as far as best practices when it comes to putting out content?
Document. I actually was just I was interviewing a guy named Dylan Tanaka, who's out of Detroit, Michigan. And we were just talking about this is when you're out at a property, document what you're doing. So if you're with a seller, just, hey, hey, Mr. Seller, do you mind if I whip my phone out real quick and just record? I know that, and obviously deliver the value first, because you don't want to just like automatically, whip your phone out and start recording. So you've delivered value. So this is the assumption you've already delivered value to them, whether you're going to buy their house or you have provided a solution for them if you can't help them. And just say, hey, do you mind if I, record this real quick and get a testimonial from you? And, just a quick selfie. I mean, I know that I go into these businesses and record, with my professional, camera equipment. Even then I keep it very minimalist. I don't bring lights in. I don't bring all the crazy, backdrops and stuff like that. It's very simple. And Don, we've filmed several videos, right. A month ago or so. And, you see, that's my setup, right? It's nothing crazy. And people, you need to utilize the power of this thing right here in my hand, which is a cell phone, and the cameras are absolutely incredible. Maybe get an external mic. I mean, we're getting into technicalities, but just document what you're doing. If you're going to a house, if you're a wholesaler, like go to the house, do a walkthrough of the house and say, hey, there's mold up in the corner there. Here's what I'm going to do with that. And what that does is it builds credibility, authority, and influence. And using that content to document it, first of all, it makes it extremely easy for you to create content, right? Because you don't want to complicate it. I know Don's got his mic right there. He's got the backdrop, and we're live and everything, but you don't have to do that. You really don't. I mean, people are okay with consuming the raw content, especially if it's relevant to them. And that's the key word that you got to focus on. Is this piece of content relevant to my audience? If it is, bring the value, and it's going to give you, results. And so I see a lot of people that are doing it right. They'll go to a house, they'll do a walkthrough, and they'll point out all the things of like, all right, if, I'm a wholesaler, I'm looking for somebody to buy this property from me. So here's all things that are wrong with it. There's cracks in the foundation. And, anybody that's a legitimate real estate investor is like, they see cracks in the foundation, they see mold in the ceilings. They're like, mold is gold, all that stuff. They're like happy to take that on because they know what they're going to do with it already. Right. And so, point that stuff out, be honest, deliver the value, and then it builds that credibility, the authority, and the influence for you. So document. That's like, you want to make it as simple and easy as possible for you to get content there. And then, obviously you could throw that on your Facebook page. You can throw that in groups that you're a part of. You can throw that on your website or YouTube or Google My Business and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. And that's, it's something you got to practice and get into, because I'm still, I've been putting out content for almost 3 years now, and I'm still bad about just like, I like to live in the moment. Yeah. My wife's the one that wants to take pictures. Like every time we turn around, it's like she wants to stop, take pictures. It's like, I don't want to live behind a camera. Yeah. I want to live in the moment. I want to enjoy the moment, but there are, and you still need to do that, but there are times you got to be conscious of just stop and do video and stop and capture that and document it. And that's something that I still work on. So it's definitely, if you feel like you're struggling with it, don't feel like, you're failing. I struggle with it. Yeah. I do the backdrop. This is my little like studio cave, because this is what people do. Yeah. Absolutely. So I created a space for comfort. And maybe that's something you need to do as well, is create a space for comfort. So there's no wrong way, I think, as long as you're doing it right. I think that's the story.
Absolutely. There is no wrong way to do something. I mean, the example I always use that's funny, and when you think of content marketing and somebody that teaches it, most people automatically think of Gary Vaynerchuk.
Right.
And if you go back and you look at his very first video he ever posted on social media, period, it's his first Wine Library TV episode, and it's literally like the crappiest video that you'll ever watch. It's all pixelated. You could tell it was shot on like one of those hand cams that you take to SeaWorld. Mom takes to SeaWorld to film the kids and stuff back in the early 2000s. A word graphic comes across the screen and completely covers his face. You can't even see him, and it's really a crappy video. But he started, and now you look at the quality that he's got now.
Right.
You got to build up to that. It's just like running your business. You can't just automatically go out and buy a Ferrari once you make your first assignment fee on a deal. You got to work up to getting to the levels that you want to go to, but it takes
Right.
time, it takes patience, and the important thing is to get started. Because what I always tell people, Don, is because I always have people tell me, and I can't take everybody on as a client. I keep my you're one of my clients. I keep it very lean, very mean. So I'm always trying to educate people on how to do this stuff. And I tell people, like, just start with your phone. You can get if you want better audio, go to Amazon, get a $30 lapel mic that you can get to capture some better audio if you want to. I mean, it's just make it easy for yourself, because the more you add into it, the more difficult it becomes for you, the less interest you're going to get in it. Because what you don't want to do is get all hyped and get all the gear and everything. I mean, the first time I shot video with John Martinez, we went into his office and he had like more gear than I have with me. And he's like, yeah, I got all hyped and I bought all this. I shot a few videos and then I just stopped doing it because I just lost interest. He's like, it just became too difficult for me. So that's like a quintessential example, but keep it simple. The important thing is to just start doing it and focus on delivering the value in your content, and then you'll be off to the races.
So what I hear you saying is, when you're trying to do content and document what you're doing, that you need to not have analysis paralysis. You need to take massive and perfect action, just like your real estate investing business and marketing and everything else. Massive and perfect action. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to document it and do it and get your story out there and let your community know who you are and what you're doing. I get deals all the time from my community because people know what I'm doing. And so it's huge, right? I mean, that's important to
and by the way, that's one of my favorite statements by you is take massive and perfect action. And it is so true, but like just what you said right there about it brings you deals. That's that's the credibility, the authority, and the influence piece that you have just by you doing these shows. I mean, I'm sure you've gotten tons of deals, tons of business sent your way. And even maybe if you can't take the deal, somebody that you can give that deal to, and maybe get a cut from that or whatever it is. But the more influence you build, that influence is a big byproduct of the content that you put out. Because I know a lot of people that are out there that are doing content. I have a lot of friends on Facebook that they're putting content out there. They're not an influencer. They're just a simple wholesaler or fix and flipper, but they get deals sent to them all the time because people know what they do and they see the type of value they deliver in those videos. And it's not just, sell me your house, sell me your house, sell me your house. It's, here's why you should work with me. People want to work with people they know, like, and trust. And you have to get to each one of those levels individually. And content is one of those things that you can leverage to build those know, like, and trust without having to meet somebody in person, which, by the way, I think even at my young age, I still believe meeting somebody in person is by far the best marketing tool that you can use. But if you can't make that happen, if you're a virtual wholesaler or whatever, like, content is going to be the thing that builds that credibility for you.
Agreed 100%. So we covered best practices, and I don't want to give people a reason to make excuses, but I do want to ask, like, what do you feel like are the top 3 or maybe 5 don't do's when it comes to video?
Don't read off a script. That's number one. I get that question more than I like. Is and some of the team members I work with when I go into a business and maybe I'm filming with their acquisition specialist or their disposition person or whatever. A lot of people, they'll ask, you didn't bring a teleprompter, or should I have written an outline down or whatever? If you really, because I know most people aren't like Don and I, where we can just, like Melissa Johnson and I were talking about you, Don, and how you just like, we don't understand how you can just like literally quote a full book like within one sit down without looking at any notes or anything. Like I can't even do that, right? And I'm a media guy, and so not everybody's like you and I, where we can just kind of just off the cuff just do that.
Right.
So I get that, a lot of people, I deal with a lot more people that have more stage fright with video than actually feel comfortable on video.
Right.
So what I would recommend to you is, if you are that person, is, an outline, but very short bulletized points, and just expound on those, and don't worry about being perfect. That's the thing, is like, with today, the way the current state of the internet is, with the rise of social media and the rise of content with that social media, people are more okay than ever with raw content, with you screwing up and saying a word wrong, and then, maybe correcting yourself real quick and laughing it off or whatever. People are cool with that. Like, people want more genuine content now than ever, which is super interesting, because we're in this day and age of like AI and bots and stuff like that, which I'm a huge believer in that stuff. I mean, I've got a Google Home in every single one of my rooms in my house. So like, all that stuff is playing into, marketing in some way, but more than ever now, which is, again, super interesting. I just heard this on a podcast last night on my way home from St. Louis. But more than ever now, the type of marketing that people need to do needs to be more humanized than ever.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that raw content,
More
that
real.
people, real, genuine, raw, not scripted. People are cool with that, especially, and again, I'm going to go back to one of my examples is, I was filming with the team over in Dayton, Ohio, in the Dayton area, but their office is in a little town called Germantown, Ohio. And their demographic, I mean, their primary sellers are over the age of 50, like by far. It's a landslide. And people that are over that age, they, weirdly enough, even though they grew up with the staged content on TV and radio and stuff like that, they like the genuine type content more than ever, which is like kind of odd. But, having somebody set up with a beautiful backdrop and lights and just like full production and all that, and a red camera, 8K camera and stuff like that, that's not going to engage your audience. And that's the most important thing, is to know your audience, first of all. But, be okay with raw content. And again, it just goes back to just start doing it. But one of the worst practices I see is people trying to stage their content and try to stay. And there's obviously like scenarios for that. There are times for that. But in order to just get started, don't worry about just don't worry about scripting your stuff. You obviously want to have a thought line and a process and a point that you want to go after, but just do it, because that's going to prohibit you from doing it, because then you're going to get nervous. You're going to rewatch the video and you're going to be like, oh, I sound like a robot, and then you're not going to do it ever again. So that's like number one, I think, is just don't script it. Just put it out there. Whatever's in your brain, just let it flow out of your mouth. So.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I everything I do is unscripted. I don't know if people realize that or not, but like every show, people will ask me like, well, what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, we're just going to have a conversation. Like, I don't know going into any show what we're going to talk about. And that's been that way for 3 years. And I found that works best for me, because when I've tried to script, I'm so worried about remembering where I'm at in that script or what I'm supposed to say that I start screwing everything up. And the one thing that I think is important for people to understand is if you're in this industry long enough, the content, the material. And that's what I think people discredit. They discredit their knowledge. Like, you can put me on any stage just about, and I can talk about any subject in this industry because I know the material. I'm not going to get lost.
Yeah.
I'll do PowerPoints with slides that keep me on where I want to be in my story.
Right.
But I know the material. So, one of the tricks I do as well is sometimes I'll do a whiteboard across from me that has like the 5 things I want to talk about. That's it. Like, I want to talk about this, and this. But the whole conversation about each one of those topics is totally free flow.
Yeah.
And that's just so I don't forget one of the topics I want to cover in the video. So those are, a couple of tricks, but yeah, get out of your head, understand, the material, and just take action, I think, is important there.
Absolutely. And then the next thing I would say is, people talk about, putting your content out everywhere. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in betting on one platform. I think there's kind of going outside of the real estate realm. I think there's a lot of YouTubers that are going to be in trouble if YouTube ever shuts down, if they've built a following of 1 million, subscribers or whatever. And that's their, because once you hit, if you do some of the analytics, and I have a few clients that have massive YouTube followings, and I know a few people that are over that 1 million subscriber mark. Once you hit about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, it's a full-time job for you. Like, it just pays that well.
Right.
But what happens is, if YouTube decides to shut down tomorrow for whatever reason, and it couldn't even, it could even be where it's not even YouTube's decision. It could be a government thing. Like,
Right.
anything could happen, and they're going to lose all of their audience because they didn't build it on multiple different platforms. So there's like there's a threshold to that too. So like, try to understand where I'm going here is that don't build your audience just on one platform, but don't build it on all platforms. So the key thing to understand is, marketing 101, who's your audience? That's like, you got to know your avatar. You got to know who they are. The next step is, where are they at? And that's where you got to go. So for instance, Flip Talk, you're primarily talking to active real estate investors. You might have some wholesalers on here, but it's Flip Talk. So let's just talk to the rehabbers. A rehabber, putting your podcast out, Don, on Pinterest is not going to make it there. Like, you're going to be falling into a black hole of nobody listening to you. Same thing for, the big thing right now is TikTok. Like, a lot of people are trying to build a presence on TikTok. And if your audience isn't, a 16-year-old teenage girl that, is interested in hair and makeup, like, it's going to be for nothing. Right. And I strongly believe in trying things and A/B testing your marketing and all that kind of stuff, but don't get so caught up in the weeds and trying to be everywhere, because what's one of the things is, like, if your audience is everyone, then it's no one. It's the same thing for the platforms that you put your content on. If your content goes out on everywhere, then it's not going to reach anybody because it's too spread thin. So put your content out on the relevant platforms, which for most active investors, it is going to be Facebook 100%. It's going to be your website, which is a platform. It's going to be Google My Business. And, depending on if you're trying to get deals or, whatever you're trying to raise capital, whatever, LinkedIn, maybe. But, Instagram's kind of on a rise right now. I'm seeing some, good essence there from real estate investors, but right now, Facebook, Google My Business, website is like your primary places that you need to be building content on and on top of. But don't get caught up in trying to put things out everywhere. Only focus on where your audience is, and that's the only thing that matters. And whether that, Facebook decides to shut down tomorrow and a new platform comes out and investors are on there, like, Bigger Pockets is a big one too. So putting content out there is extremely important, even though they like to pull stuff down pretty often, which that might be another conversation, but you just got to be careful with their guidelines. But you got to go to where your audience is, and they move from time to time. So you got to keep up with that.
Very cool. Very good advice. So let me ask you this. This is kind of a put you on the spot question again, totally unscripted, obviously. So you have worked with, some influencers in the space, John Martinez being one of them that most people on here probably know, because if you're a corporate wholesaler, whatever, you're going to know who he is. You have worked with quite a few real estate investors in their, as far as getting some of their exposure out in their community. What is the common trait you see amongst people, successful entrepreneurs in this business, that you feel like you could pinpoint that people need to, I guess, look at as the possibility of incorporating in themselves or their business?
From a marketing standpoint or just in general?
Well, let's do both, marketing and in general.
I'll start with general, because that's going to be a little bit of an easier question, because marketing is, everybody's got their own flow of marketing. I guess, I don't know, maybe marketing is the easy one too, is like, it's almost like everything we've been talking about is like just delivering value, I mean, if you follow John Martinez, let's just use him as an example. Right. I mean, he puts out content on a daily basis, and it's all value-based content. Like, that's all it is. I mean, he puts out his sales stuff every once in a while of like, sign up for my boot camp and stuff like that, which he doesn't have his boot camp anymore. That was his last one was last week, but his online academy and stuff like that, like, he'll put that out every once in a while. But for the most part, if you follow him on Facebook or his YouTube page or anything, it's all value-based stuff. It's delivering that value. So whether you're an influencer or an active investor, because an active investor can also deliver value to your audience,
right?
In the form of helping them solve their problem and not just trying to close a deal with them. And so that's number one, like, people that are successful in what they're doing in marketing, that's what I'm seeing the most of. And obviously that flows into, building your audience on in emails or, driving traffic to your website or whatever. And it's all about relevance too. You gotta make sure relevance is one of my favorite words right now, because again, going back to the conversations we had about where to put your content and who to go after, the only word that matters to bridge your content to those two silos is relevance. Like what's relevant to them, what platform is relevant to them, and what kind of content is relevant to this type of person.
Right.
So that's the thing I would say from a marketing standpoint. From a business standpoint, and this is something that I've actually had the privilege. And I always tell people, like, my personality, I'm an observer. Like, I watch people almost at an uncomfortable level. Like I just observe people. Like I that's just kind of what I do. I watch what people, especially people that I know, I can model something after. I don't ever believe in like, I want to be this person, but I do look up to,
Right.
quite a few people. And I always want to emulate some things about, specific people. But the number one thing that I observe from people that are successful in what they do, and again, success is measured by however you measure it, is they solve problems. Like, and we talked about, we skimmed over that a couple times in the conversations about content, but from just a general business standpoint and life standpoint, is they solve problems, whether they're big problems or small problems. They don't approach a situation freaking out, or your stress levels are going to rise, but they don't just throw in the towel or whatnot. They figure a way out. And that's one of the things I've admired about you. And if you guys know Don's story of going through the crash and everything, I mean, it's crazy. That would rattle anybody that would go through something like that. And I know far too many people that have gone through that, but the people that made it out alive, they're problem solvers, and they solve the problem of, we've got this economic downturn. Now, what am I going to do? And they figured it out, whether that was go get a full-time job for now and do real estate on the side until it picks back up, or like, let's, weather the storm and push through it, or lower our cost of living, stuff like that. They just solve the problem. And the 99% of the world, they make excuses. They're excuse makers. They're not problem solvers. They get hit with a situation and they just say it's this person's fault, or it's the government's fault, or it's my mom and dad's fault. And they just lay down and don't do anything with it. I've had, I've heard you talk about this a couple of times with, employees. I've had a couple of employees that have worked with me that they have a very specific duty that they need to do. And I have a facilitator, because I can sometimes, like, I look at A and Z and I don't look at any letters in between there. And so I have a facilitator that helps, lay out those expectations to the employee. And then, they're all gung ho about it. They get it done within the first 2 or 3 months. They're knocking it out and crushing it. And then after that, they just kind of fall off and they just kind of decide to just stop doing their job. And then, you go to them and approach them and like, hey, what's going on? Why isn't this done? And they're like, oh, well, I had a family issue and like all this stuff. Like, no, you figure it out. And even down to, let me give you one smaller example for me and the way I approach when something comes my way as a problem. 2 weeks ago. Okay. So going back 4 months ago, I was driving on a small back road and I decided to get a little too close to a Escalade that was next to me. And I smacked his mirror, completely destroyed his mirror. So there you go. Escalades completely destroyed his mirror. Didn't even do anything to my Ford Explorer mirror. And so we had to pull over, file accident report and everything. Come to find out it was my fault and all that. And insurance was supposed to cover it. And then last week, so this is like 3.5, 4 months later, last week, I get a letter in the mail from the BMV saying that your license is suspended because, the insurance didn't provide proof of funds or whatever, or something like that. And I'm like, what in the world? And any other person would just like get completely upset and like, get pissed off and everything. And I was, but I approached it from a standpoint of like, all right, I got a problem. What am I going to do about it? I called the right people, got it outlined, and didn't let it stress me out. Because, so many people waste too much of their energy and their time stressing out about things that kind of don't matter. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember what the exact statistic is or whatever, but I've heard it, a few times over the last couple of months is, like something like 80% of what we worry about doesn't actually happen, stuff like that. So approach everything as being a problem solver, not an excuse maker, and you will get a lot farther in life, and it will build an element of a person that I think very few people have, which is grit. And it'll help, make you resilient and push through things, because there, last year in the middle of the year, I had a little bit of a down slope with my business. And I talked to one of my mentors, Gary Harper, and he's like, dude, this is all you need to do. And he gave me the exact thing I need to do. I'm like, well, crap. I've been like down in the dumps for the last month trying to like figure out why, my revenue is decreased and all that. And he gives me 1 point. And I was like, well, I got to go solve this problem now.
Right.
And it's been on an upswing ever since. And so just approach things as a problem solver. And that's like the common denominator I've seen with everybody that I observe that's successful in what they do.
Yeah, it's all good advice. And you said something there that I want to pull out as a nugget, which is basically the worry part of it. So many people will worry about stuff that never comes to be. And that's kind of the term that's used is, we worry about stuff that never comes to be. And we're focused and we're wasting our energy and our time on this issue and, or the possibility of an issue, and it never even happens. So, we just got to buckle down and get to work and solve the problem. And that's,
right.
that is, I would say, an underlying trait in most successful people is they're problem solvers. So
yeah,
most definitely.
And I think that's something you can learn over time. I mean, I've always kind of had that in my genes.
Right.
I grew up playing sports, and a lot of times, and people don't realize in sports, you got to solve problems. If somebody crosses you over, what are you going to do when you're, they're headed to the basket? Like, you're going to foul them, or you're going to try to block the shot, whatever. Like it's like subconscious problem solving. So I've always kind of had that trait, and I just need to utilize it more. And that's something I observed from people in the business world that do all the time. So
very cool. All right. Well, I think we're good. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you and possibly utilize your services for content production in their market.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on the show. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't do too much talking. I don't know if that's like, but I appreciate you having me on the show. And I'm absolutely honored to be here, as, you as my friend, as my clients, and somebody I look up to. But yeah, if you want to get in contact with me, the simplest way is either Facebook, just search Josh Culler. I'm very active on Facebook. For those of you who know me, you know that I put out a lot of content on Facebook. And so connect with me there. My website is Culler, Culler, media.com. It's under construction right now, but you can get there. And then also, I'm actually going to be interviewing Dawn after this for a newsletter that I have that's called the REI Marketing Weekly, which we interview one person that's crushing it in marketing for that newsletter. And then I have a resource of the week, something that you can utilize in your marketing, and then a weekly update, and then a tip from me. So it's 100% value. There's no pitching on there. I don't sell ad space or anything. So you can sign up there, cullermedia.com/subscribe. And that's it.
Very cool. Yeah. And I will say that you are very good to work with. You're more responsive than I am, which is a good thing, because you're probably busier, to be honest. And the one thing I will say about working with you is, even when something's not your responsibility, you will naturally take responsibility for it. I've noticed when I reach out to you and you're like, oh, that was my fault. I'm like, no, that wasn't your fault. But so I do appreciate that working with you. So if anybody wants to work with Josh, he's just a joy to work with. So for those of you who are watching this, like I mentioned in the beginning, make sure that you are liking the Flip Talk podcast with Don Costa page. If you're listening to iTunes or Stitcher or anywhere else you listen to it, make sure that you are liking that page as well, so you're notified when we go live. I'll pick about 2 days a week where we'll probably start doing this the exact same time on those 2 days a week. I'm going to be doing these shows 2 days a week, as the cat's out of the bag, I guess, on that. And so that you can see these shows before anybody else does. We have our Inner Circle Elite Mastermind meeting here in Las Vegas, and the 27th and 28th of January. Josh will be there with me, obviously, doing some content stuff for me and knocking out the good stuff that he does. So if you're interested in being a part of that meeting or checking out one of our future meetings, go to beinThisRoom.com and check that out and just apply. And Mike will reach out to you and give you a call and have a conversation, let you know what it's all about. I think that's all I got for the business.
Hey, Don, let me jump in there real quick. Just like 20 seconds. I want to just say, so guys, I've been a part of about 8 different masterminds over the past 7 years. And some of the biggest ones, I mean, I would give names and you guys would know exactly who I'm talking about. And I've also helped build a mastermind. And I'll just tell you right now, the Inner Circle Elite is a incredible group of people. Just the first event that you guys hosted the end of last year, and that I was honored to be a part of in there. Just down to earth people. Everybody shares in there. Everybody's willing to be open and give honest feedback on things. And I know a lot of times when you go to a mastermind, one of the biggest drawbacks is like people don't want to join because people beat their chests and tell everybody how incredible they are. They're not open and vulnerable and that kind of thing.
Right.
Not a single person in this entire group that I know of that is like that. So check it out. Incredible group to be a part of.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I have this no chess meeting rule. We got to be authentic. We got to be real.
Right.
We're there to do the work, right? So,
Yeah.
absolutely. I appreciate the plug, man. And so if you're interested in that, beinthisroom.com. And of course, all the likes and subscribes wherever you're listening to this, the feedback, the comments, the ratings and reviews, those kind of things really help this show go a long way. So make sure you're doing that for me. So until I talk to you again, I think that's all I got for you. So you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the other side.